Okay, so now we have our sphere pretty much going from point A to point B, and it bounces, goes up, halfway on the animation goes down, and then goes up, and then goes down. Okay, so now we're going to make a few tweaks to make the movement a little bit more natural, and that's where your creative talents will shine. We are going to add first the option of making a little bit of rotation on the sphere. If you notice now, it always is facing up, right? As it moves, it's always facing up, facing down, facing, the poles are the axis on the middle, are always on the same direction, up and down, right? So it would be, that's good if you were showing the sphere to be a character, right? But if in a regular bouncing ball, or regular ball that you throw, there will be some kind of rotation on it. Okay, so let's add some of that with our simple frame setup that we have. So let's start on frame 0 and look at where the direction of the sphere. We're going to go all the way to the highest point on that first bounce on frame 13, and what we're going to do is going to rotate it a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to get the rotate tool here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that horizontal, that top and bottom axis to go there horizontally. Okay, and then on frame 13, middle mouse there, I press S to update it. Okay, so this is the effect that I get, that you get the sphere starts, with the top and bottom axis there, normal, and then goes and rotates. You see, rotates a little bit. So then I am going to translate that into this, the next step, which is over here on the bottom. What I want to do is for it to continue rotating, right? So that this pole over here goes down, 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 and then it will touch the ground at that point. So it will be kind of inverted to the initial position when we started on frame 1. So I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to rotate like this, and we're doing this, visually. So that way it's that way, the opposite way to what we started, and press S. So let's see what happens. We start in that position, goes horizontal, and then that same pole or axis goes down and touches ground, giving a little bit more of interest. You see? Okay. So the next, what we're going to do is continue over here to this one and do the same. We're going to make it, instead of this way, we're going to make it go horizontal now. This is pretty much what we did before, okay? And then on frame 34, I'm going to press S to update that key. And then I'm going to make it go with this axis, then goes down, so that that bottom side, touches the ground over here. So I'm going to go rotate it again and press S on frame 48. If you're not there, you can always, middle mouse and press S. Okay, so let's see what happens now. It starts, it goes down, and then on the opposite axis goes up and goes down. So it's looking a little bit better, don't you think? I think it does. So let's go back to frame 1, and let's add a little bit of squash and stretch. I'm kind of curious about to see how this is gonna work out for us with that modifier added to it, right? That deformer squash added. So first of all, click on the sphere and notice where your first key is. That one's easy to figure out, is on frame 1. The second one is all the way high up there, and then it's 13. Okay, so kind of halfway between those, I would like for it to start stretching a little bit and probably even start squashed down as if it was already bouncing and then it started on that position of being squashed down. Okay, so on frame 1 I'm gonna click on our modifier there, and you see there's nothing there. I'm going to place the factor to be, oh, where's my squash not working? There. Okay, so I'm going to squash it. Just pretty much go a little bit like that. Let's say point, let's say point, 0.5, negative 0.5. Let's remember that number so that we can keep the same squash every time the ball touches ground, okay? So 0.5. To set up a key on the modifier, not on the modifier, on the deformer, we need to right click on factor and set key. You're going to notice that it gets red like that, okay? So there is our first key, and we're going to go all the way to, which was the second one. Just click on the sphere, and kind of halfway there should be, I would say, to make it normal. Okay, so let's go back on frame 13. That's where our highest position is. So go back to our deformer. So click on your deformer, set it to 0 over here, press enter, and if you notice now the sphere goes back to normal, and right click, set key, and it went red again. So let's see what happens. We start squashed. I'm on frame 13. We should go back to normal. 13. There you go. Goes back to normal. You see? So now we create a squash, and then back to normal, and then I will probably do an in between. Let's say frame 7, maybe. You could make it a little bit higher, 0.5. That will be too much, 0.1. How about 0.1 or 0.2? 0.2 sounds good. So halfway there, between 1 and 13, let's make one in frame 7 that reads as 0.2 to give you a little bit of a stretch, to indicate a little bit of impulse. That's one thing that you might want to keep in mind, right? So forces applied over it. So right click over factor, set key, it turns red. So now we have our initial pose, stretches a little bit. Remember, number 7 was a little bit of stretch out. 0.2, that seems to be working. And then now in frame 13 goes back to normal. Okay, so as it goes down, let's say frame 18, I will put that 0.2 again. So 0.2 to indicate a little bit of maybe gravity pull or speed. So on frame 18, then go right click, set key, and as it touches ground, I think the best pose will be a squash. And that was what? Negative 0.5, right? Excellent. So that's on frame 24. That's when it touches ground the second time. Right click and set key. That way I keep those, okay? So then the next key is the highest point where it should be, that should be a normal position. That's because we're using that as the normal position. Let's press 0 and right click, set key. And kind of halfway there, let's say 29, frame 29, we set it as 0.2. Is it 0.2? Yes, 0.2. To give it a little bit of a stretch. Remember, we were doing a little bit of a stretch between the high pose and the low pose on the floor, okay? So right click, set key. So squashes, stretches a little bit halfway there, goes up to normal position. So then maybe on 41 over here, let's put it on 0.2. Press enter and right click to set a key, set key. And when it finishes on the final position, we put it as negative 0.5, which is the squash, okay? And make sure that on frame 45, in your final position, it's a little bit squashed to give it a little bit of a push down, right, by gravity. So let's click somewhere else and let's play the animation. Let's see how it looks. So it's looking a little different, right? You see it's taking a little bit of, better movement. And we're going to still be tweaking a few more things. But now we have squash and stretch applied. And we have our rotation, right? Which was something that we needed to add. And a little bit of squash and stretch as it goes down and pull, okay? So when we come back, we're going to be adjusting a few things. For example, notice how it doesn't quite touch the ground when it squashes. So we're going to go over that next. And then a few other things and render our final.